Right now, somewhere in the world, there is a small piece of human brain that could kill you, and there would be nothing any hospital on Earth could do to stop it. Not a poison, not a virus, a meal. Inside your skull sits about 1.5 kilograms of brain. Soft, gray, folded, the most complex object in the known universe. Now imagine that the most loving thing your family could do, the moment you died, was to eat it. Not out of hunger, out of grief. To keep a piece of you alive inside the people who loved you most. For one group of people, that was real, it was tender, it was sacred, and it was quietly passing a killer around the circle. One that would make them shake, then laugh uncontrollably, and then die. Years later, sometimes 50 years later. And here is the part that should not be possible. You cannot kill this thing. Not with fire, not with boiling, not with time. By the end of this, you'll know exactly what was hiding in that meal of love, and why a version of it is still out there today, in our food and our blood banks. I'm Nerlin, and I fell down this rabbit hole for an entire weekend expecting a simple story about a faraway tribe. I came out genuinely unsettled, because it stops being about them and starts being about all of us. So let's start with the love, before we get to the price. High in the mountains of Papua New Guinea live a people called the Fore, and until the middle of the last century, not the Stone Age, the 1950s, they had a way of saying goodbye that we would call horrifying, and they called devotion. When someone died, the body was not left to rot alone in the cold ground. It was given to the family. The women and the children would prepare it, and they would eat it. The flesh, the organs, and, this detail matters more than any other, the brain. To them, this was the opposite of cruelty. Leaving your mother in the dirt for the worms, that was the real insult. Taking her into your own body so she lived on inside the people she loved, that was love. That, to them, was a funeral. Nobody in that circle knew they had just eaten the thing that would kill them. The first sign came quietly, often years after the meal. A tremor, a small shake in the hands, in the legs that simply would not stop. The Fore already had a word for it. Kuru. It means, literally, to shake. Then it followed a path so exact the villagers could read it like a calendar. First, you could still walk, but you swayed, you stumbled, your words slurred. Then you couldn't walk at all. You'd sit, shaking harder. And somewhere in there came the symptom that gave the disease its other name. Bursts of helpless, uncontrollable laughter. People laughing at nothing while they died. They called it the laughing death. Then the last stage. You couldn't sit up, you couldn't swallow, and then you were gone. From the first shake to the last breath was often under a year, sometimes up to 2. There was no treatment. There still isn't. Once Kuru starts, it is 100% fatal, every single time. All told, before it finally faded, it is estimated to have killed around 2,700 people. And it did not strike at random. At its peak, around 1957, Kuru was killing roughly 200 people a year in a tiny population, and it hit women and children 8 to 9 times more often than men. The reason is the meal. The men mostly ate the muscle. The women and the children were given the brain. And the brain was the single most dangerous thing a person could eat on this planet. It took an outsider to see it, an anthropologist named Shirley Lindenbaum, who walked from village to village and noticed the disease followed the funerals. Where the eating happened, the shaking followed. The meal was the cause. For years, scientists refused to believe her, certain it had to be in the genes. Picture one Fore girl watching her mother shake and laugh and fold inward over months, knowing she sat at that same funeral, ate from that same body, and that the shaking might be coming for her too. That was an ordinary childhood there, for a while. Before you scroll on, tell me honestly in the comments, if a ritual was killing your family, but it was sacred, would you be the one to stand up and stop it? Hold that, because the strangest part isn't the disease. It's what actually caused it. So what was hiding in the brain? Not a poison, not a virus, not a bacterium, not a parasite. Nothing alive at all. The killer was a protein. Just an ordinary protein, the stuff your whole body is built from, folded into the wrong shape. It's called a prion, and it has one nightmare trick. When the misfolded version touches a healthy protein, it forces that healthy one to misfold too, which corrupts the next and the next, a chain reaction that turns living brain into a sponge full of holes with nothing to switch it off. The scientist who later proved this, Stanley Prusiner, won a Nobel Prize for it in 1997. And the man who first proved Kuru could be passed on at all by transmitting it to chimpanzees, Carlton Geijdesek, had already won one back in 1976. Now, here's the fact that should genuinely disturb you. The Fore cooked their dead. Heat is how we destroy everything dangerous in food. It did nothing. Because a prion is not alive, you cannot kill it the way you kill a germ. Boiling doesn't break it, ordinary cooking doesn't. Even a hospital sterilizer at around 120 degrees can't reliably do it. Prions have survived soaking in chemicals for decades. The only thing that truly destroys one is fire of about 1,000 degrees. So when that family lovingly cooked their mother and shared her, the heat changed nothing at all. The killer went around the circle untouched. And it was patient. Brutally patient. The shaking might not begin for 10 or 13 years after the meal. And in some cases, confirmed by scientists who tracked the very last victims, the prion sat silent inside a person for more than 50 years. 50. You could eat at a funeral as a small child, grow up, raise your own kids, go gray, and only then start to shake. A death sentence handed out at a funeral that waited half a century to be read aloud. Now, you're probably filing this under one isolated tribe, far away, nothing to do with me. So let me ruin that comfortable thought. For hundreds of years, right up into the 1700s, educated Europeans ate human remains too. Not in secret, as medicine. They ground Egyptian mummies into powder and drank it. They collected human fat, human blood, and powdered human skull, and sold them in respectable pharmacies for headaches, bruises, bleeding, epilepsy. King Charles II of England sipped a tonic of crushed human skulls steeped in alcohol. They called it the King's Drops. One of the founding fathers of brain science mixed powdered skull with chocolate and prescribed it. The historian Richard Sugg said it best. In Europe, the question was never whether to eat human flesh, it was which flesh to eat. Personally, I think that's the real gut punch of this whole story. We picture cannibalism as the far edge of human behavior, something only they do, out there, in the dark. But your own ancestors, in powdered wigs, were doing a version of it in well-lit shops and calling it science. So, second question for the comments. Did you have any idea Europeans did this? Be honest, because this next part is where it stops being history at all. You probably assume prions died out with the Fore. They didn't. They just changed to dress. In the 1980s and 90s, Britain panicked over something the news called mad cow disease. Here's the link almost nobody makes. To save money on feed, farmers had been feeding cattle the ground-up remains of other cattle. We had turned cows into cannibals. And the exact same kind of killer appeared, a prion, eating holes in their brains. Then it did the thing it was never supposed to do. It jumped across into people who ate the beef as a human disease called variant CJD. Same family as Kuru, same unkillable protein. The Fore ate their dead out of love. We fed our animals to each other to cut costs, and it came back for us. This is why, even now, people who lived in Britain during those years are sometimes turned away when they try to donate blood in other countries. It's why a surgical tool that touches a suspect brain occasionally has to be destroyed, because the hospital cannot promise it will ever be truly clean again. The thing that haunted a grieving family in the mountains of New Guinea is sitting in our hospitals, our food chain, our blood supply. It never left. But the Fore story has an ending almost too strange to be true. Because while the disease was burning through them, something was quietly fighting back, inside their own bodies.
Scientists studying the survivors found something extraordinary, published in 2009. A tiny new change had appeared in a single human gene, a variant they call G127V, and carrying it was strongly linked to protection. The people who had it appeared shielded from Kuru. Think about what that means. This protective change wasn't there before. It appeared and spread through the Fore during the epidemic in just a handful of generations. That is human evolution, not over millions of years, but happening in real time, in living memory, in answer to a disease served at a dinner for the dead.
People were rewriting their own DNA to survive their own funerals, and never even knew they were doing it. So here's what this whole thing really teaches, and it's far bigger than one tribe. The dead can kill the living. Love can carry a death sentence. The deadliest thing in this entire story was never a monster or a poison. It was an ordinary protein, folded the wrong way, that fire couldn't touch and time couldn't rush. And when it came for an entire people, evolution answered inside a single lifetime. Nobody outsmarted the prion. The Fore outlived it by surviving and by finally putting down the meal. So go back to where we started, that 1.5 kilograms of brain inside your skull right now. To the Fore, that was the most loving gift a body could give, and the most dangerous one. They meant nothing but love, and love is exactly how it spread. I'll be honest, I started this expecting a weird tribal fact, and I came out thinking about how thin the line really is between devotion and disaster, between them and us. Powdered skull in a king's cup. Cattle fed to cattle. A mother eaten by her own children so she'd never be alone. So tell me, genuinely, down in the comments, of everything here, what disturbed you the most? The laughing death, the 50-year wait, or that your own ancestors did it too? I read every single one. I'm Nerlin. See you in the next one.